Introduction to Dao Yu's Fish. The gray-haired girl casually asked, "Do you know what the end of the world is?" The end of the world is just people fighting and struggling to survive. No, the girl shook her head and attached herself to the silver cauldron's ear, speaking in a subtle and inaudible voice about the secret that only she knew in this world. Brother, the end of the world is when all living beings die without a trace, including humans. Chapter 1. On Grass Mustard. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Close the diary in your hand, it is the only relic left by parents in this world, and also your only reliance in this unfamiliar world. Ding has been in this world for over 3 months now, and there is no such thing as a soul crossing. He suddenly came to this world and discovered that he had parents. Then he suddenly received this note and a suicide note. But I have no memory of this world, and my so-called parents are completely unaware of it. Since it's not my own fault, it's the world's fault. After a brief period of anxiety, I suppressed my fear and could only huddle in my room, constantly searching for information about this world online. But today this suicide letter was sent, and I haven't done anything in this world yet. To my surprise, my parents are completely gone. Looking at the photo in front of me, there is a serious middle-aged man and a short-haired woman with a shallow smile on her lips. The man is approximately 1.8 meters tall, while the woman is over 1.6 meters tall. Both of them have a well-proportioned figure, wearing short sleeves with exposed arms full of muscles. The woman has a good face, but is completely damaged by a scar. The man wears a badge with 2 large characters, Grandmaster, shining in gold, while the woman wears a badge with Grandmaster written on it. However, the two of them suddenly said that they had all suffered from natural disasters and unfortunately passed away. All their predictions and preparations for their parents in this world for so many days were in vain. However, it was also good that they no longer had to rack their brains to prevent any loopholes from being exposed. Take a gentle breath, clasp your hands together, and mourn for the parents of this world. On the suicide note, the parents of this world have instructed them to carry out secret missions. In case of an accident, they don't have to feel too sad. They have already arranged everything for themselves. As long as they go to the branch of the Grandmaster League in the city, someone will arrange a good job for Ding, without worrying about not being able to find a job or worrying about their life. I have a rough understanding of the information about this world, so I can only follow the arrangements in the suicide note step by step. The Yuan Xinglua, Galaxy 23, Medium Star 16, Continent 5, Far Eastern Empire, 3036 years ago, the Far Eastern Empire unified the entire planet over 1,000 years ago. The Far Eastern Empire was the only country on this planet and the ruler of the planet. Shortly after unification, it entered the interstellar era. But looking at the black starry sky, the physical rules of this world are a bit wrong. When I first arrived in this world, I thought I had come to a technologically advanced future. However, the fundamental technological theories of this world have not made any significant breakthroughs since 1,000 years ago, but have continuously developed some small application technologies using ancient theories. Whether it is the infinite energy of nuclear fusion or the infinite productivity of artificial intelligence, these decisive technologies have not made any breakthrough progress. City 126 is filled with colorful chains of starlight scattered throughout the sky, but the distribution of starlight is extremely uneven. Stars are crowded together like light bulbs, often dozens or hundreds of stars gathering together, emitting a radiance comparable to that of more than a dozen moons in the sky. However, they do not collide due to gravity, forming a cluster of stars that are divided into star sets. The distance between star sets is more than 100 light-years. The colorful moon in the sky is also brushing the sense of existence. The largest red moon occupies half of the sky because it is close enough to the main star. The red moonlight reflects the whole road red. It is suspected that there are green shadows and insects floating behind the red light. Even if it has traveled more than 100 times at night, Ding still feels a chill from the foot to the head. The broken moon looked up at the red smiling face and couldn't help but curse out loud. She raised her hand and tightened her tight clothes, lowered her head, and quickly walked towards the destination. Unable to do anything, she was shy and had to walk to the headquarters of the Grandmaster League in the middle of the night. I don't know why the Grandmaster League had to go there for so long. But in this era, I don't understand anything in this world. Work is hard to come by, let alone the work arranged by the Grandmaster League, so I had to rush overnight, hoping to arrange a good job. Yu reading www.yuukangshu.net. After walking for a while, the street lights suddenly lit up and we arrived at the wealthy area of this city. In a bamboo forest, some courtyards stood among them, and the brilliant lights illuminated the entire area into daylight. The Grandmaster League is located in the center of the wealthy district. Strangely speaking, the status of martial artists in this world is extremely high. Martial arts cultivation is the main course of a 10-year compulsory education, and everyone practices martial arts. The status of ordinary martial artists is not much different from that of ordinary people. However, whether entering a company or serving the country, the personal strength value is still an important test item. Various universities position martial arts as the best major, and as long as one has good martial arts skills, even if they don't know anything else, they can still find a good job. If one could become the ultimate master and master of humanity, they would immediately be awarded the rank of major and enjoy the support of the country. Some even shout that even if the empire is destroyed, no one dares to be harsh with the treatment of masters and masters. However, according to online research, even top masters at their peak can run at a speed of only 30 meters per second, with only a few thousand pounds of strength. Their explosive speed is barely comparable to that of a leopard, and their strength is barely comparable to that of an elephant. Facing a fully armed soldier in a wide area, one is likely to end up being beaten into a honeycomb by firearms, but has a transcendent status, as can be seen from the fact that the Grandmaster League is located in the center of a wealthy area. Turning to his senses, he looked at the gate in front of him, which was more than 10 meters high. The three big characters of the Masters League on the top of the gate were shining with gold, and the silver cauldron couldn't help but feel envy and a hint of joy. Is it possible to work here in the future? With the wealth and strength of the Grandmaster League, I believe my income will not be low and I should be able to live a good life. Dressed up at the door to give a good impression to those who were waiting to meet later, Een Ding lifted his foot and walked into the door. Chapter 2. Under Grass Mustard. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hundreds of years ago, the Great Yuan Empire was a country where capital was king, but capital was queen. Capitalists strangely gathered under the imperial royal family, working tirelessly and riding horses like loyal shepherds. Newspapers and the internet were filled with praises of the emperor and admiration for the royal family. Instead of overthrowing the imperial family, capitalists became the kings of the new era. When he came to this world, Een Ding had great doubts about it. He couldn't have the capitalists of this world become vegetarians, or perhaps the royal family had some significant reliance, but what reliance could last for thousands of years, making no one dare to challenge the authority of the royal family in modern society. Now it seems that it may be related to the empire's millennium heavy military. Who, in the middle of the night? After entering the Grandmasters League through the side door, deep inquiries came from the dark path. Een Ding quickly took out the letter and bowed, saying that the younger generation Een Ding was invited by his uncle Li Jingxuan. He is here to announce this. Coughing, a person walked out of the small house by the door and asked, "Who are you, what is your relationship with Master Li, and why are you looking for Master Li?" Master Li has something to attend to tonight. You can come and visit tomorrow, and as you spoke, you raised your hand to rush someone. Looking at him with fixed eyes, the old man in front of him was about 60 years old, wearing a white horse coat and hunched over. His eyes looked at him with scrutinizing eyes, shining with a captivating light. Through his steps, he could see that the old man had good martial arts when he was young, and even now he has not completely let go of them. Een Ding quickly took out the envelope. Mr. Li Jingxuan is my father's friend, and I came over in the middle of the night according to his request. Oh, as soon as the old man heard this, he quickly asked, is it the son of Master Yin? Master Li had already given orders and said, get out of my way, turn around and lead the way. The silver cauldron was speechless and quickly followed. What does the old gentleman call a person? I am the gatekeeper. Mr. Li will be going on a business trip to the third continent for a period of time after tonight. He instructed me to stay here and wait. You can count it, the old man calmly leads the way. Following the elderly man 7 or 8 turns, he entered a large building. Compared to the pitch black outside, the lights inside were brightly lit, and dozens of people were practicing boxing with the sound of cheers. There was a chair next to him, and a middle-aged man was sitting on it looking at his phone. When he heard someone enter, he quickly stood up and walked towards the door. The middle-aged man stands at a height of 2 meters, with a full body full of horizontal flesh. He feels like he is wearing a tight-fitting suit on his loose training suit, which is probably Li Jingxuan. Yin Ding quickly stepped forward and respectfully asked, "Good night, Uncle Li," while extending his hand. The hand of the fan was held by the hand of the silver cauldron, and it was obvious that the owner of the hand did not exert any force, but the hand of the silver cauldron still felt pain. Hurriedly took out the letter, handed it over, and the fan let go. It caught the letter and handed it to me. After reading it for a while, I let out a long sigh. After a moment, he looked at the silver cauldron still standing respectfully on the side, nodded slightly, and a satisfied expression flashed in his eyes. After filming the letter, I sighed and said, "Man is not as good as heaven. I didn't expect your parents to suffer such a disaster. They were kind to me during their lifetime and entrusted you to me. Naturally, I should arrange a good place for you." Turning around and walking towards a nearby room, Yin Ding followed behind. The room was very large, covering an area of over 50 to 60 square meters, but it was clearly black and white. Apart from a set of black desks and the seats next to them used to entertain visitors, there was only a white weapon rack on the wall and a ghost-shaped knife placed on it. There were many bottles, jars, and wiping cloths next to the knife, indicating that the owner of the knife cherished it extremely. Li Jingxuan sat on a specially designed chair with a golden sword, which made an unbearable creaking sound. Yu reading www.yuukangshu.net waved and greeted the silver cauldron to sit down. Pick up a piece of paper from the table and pass it over. There are several vacant positions in our branch above, please choose one. Of course, if you don't have a desired position, I will arrange for someone who doesn't need to work and is only responsible for receiving wages. Gratefully reaching out to take the paper, I saw that it was filled with positions such as weapon administrator, accountant of the Grandmaster League branch, and purchaser, all of which were filled with oil and water at first glance. As a loyal soldier, after selecting a position, I could receive double the salary and benefits, and be included in national management. I never had to worry about unemployment, and I also guaranteed to arrange for myself as soon as I had a better position. How about it? Have you made your selection? Feel free to ask for any further requirements. Hand back the paper, Uncle Li. Before making a choice, I want to know the truth about my parents. This was something that Yin Ding had planned before he came. Whether it was under the guise of a son or the doubts he had been harboring in his heart for several months, it all prompted him to urgently want to know the truth about my parents, so that he could better understand the world. Taking a deep glance at the silver ding, I knew you would ask this question. Okay, what do you want to know? I'll give you an answer based on the situation, but after leaving this door, I don't want to hear any words related to it. Otherwise, I won't be able to save you either. Sure enough, there is a secret. With the excitement in my heart, I confidently said, Uncle Li, don't worry, I just want to know the truth about my parents. I will never talk nonsense outside. Li Jingxuan nodded and bent down to open the drawer at the bottom of the desk. He took out a document and placed it on the desk. Let's take a look at it for himself. I'll talk to you in detail when you finish reading it. Take the file bag, open the bag and take out the file. There are only 2 thin pages, and at the top of the file is written the investigation report of the Eternal Silence God. Chapter 3. On the Truth. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. City 18, Wuzhen, as a city that has not been replaced by numbers after entering the interstellar era, still maintains its past name. It has its own outstanding features, with small bridges and flowing water, shrouded in thick fog all year round, and its ancient buildings draped over it, making it one of the most famous tourist cities on this planet. Standing amidst it, it exudes an ethereal presence and attracts many tourists every day. It is one of the most important industries of City 18. However, recently there have been frequent missing incidents in Wuzhen, and the local government has been powerless, even to the point where hundreds of people and several local police officers have gone missing in a community. The local government is also in a state of great distress. Unable, we had to seek help from the Empire. The Empire organized a large number of investigators to enter, but in the end, nothing was done. They only sealed off the place where the incident occurred, and then publicly announced that a large number of terrorists were hiding in Wuzhen. They suspended the entire tourism project in Wuzhen and sent troops to impose martial law on Wuzhen. Of course, this is an external statement, but now there are completely different statements recorded in this document. The so-called tourist towns usually represent other aspects of economic development that are not good, with a serious outflow of young people and many elderly people remaining in most residential areas. The so-called fear of death increases with age, and there is a great terror between life and death. Even though these elderly people have a good cultural level, they are still influenced by the cult of Silent God. They believe in this life to worship the God of Silence, and do not have to wait for the next life. They can use their remaining life as a sacrifice, exchange it for God's gift, and directly reincarnate into others, so that they can never grow old and never die. The first batch of investigators sent by the Empire were deceived by these elderly people with their kind appearances, leading to the downfall of the entire army, with the parents of this world prominently among them. I flipped through the file, but there was no more content left. I looked at Li Jingxuan with a puzzled expression. The next thing is similar to what the imperial official announced. The Empire has dispatched many people and even deployed troops to directly blockade everything, but unfortunately, the problem has not been solved. Li Jingxuan shook his head as he spoke. What's going on? The army has already arrived, but they can't solve it yet, Yin Ding asked in confusion. The cult in Wuzhen existed a long time ago, and over the years, it has secretly killed many tourists and held ceremonies to lure out some bad things. The Scent Masters and Masters suffered heavy casualties. As for the military, the words paused for a moment, and the military's weapons were not very effective against those things. Looking at the expression of Yin Ding hesitating to speak, Li Jingxuan turned around and walked towards the weapon rack. With one hand, he picked up the ghost-headed sword from the shelf and asked the silver cauldron, "Do you know what a Grandmaster really is, how to evaluate him, and why the Empire gives us such high treatment?" Speed and strength surpass ordinary people, with clear 5 senses, rich combat experience, and the ability to defeat hundreds of enemies. These are all but not important, or rather, they are not important. As he spoke, he swung his knife towards the wall on one side, and the blade flashed a faint red light. Like cutting tofu, he directly cut through the wall that was more than half a meter thick. The Yin Ding, standing on the side, felt his breath being choked, his face full of shock, and his hands and feet couldn't help but tremble. He chuckled twice and saw that the silver ding looked a bit scared. Li Jingxuan seemed a bit proud. What was that red light just now? Silver Ding's face was full of curiosity. Cough cough cough, laughter choked up in his throat. Li Jingxuan asked in surprise, "Can you see those red lights?" Coincidentally, just now when the knife was about to cut through the wall, a hint of red light seemed to flash by. Silver Ding realized something unusual, and not everyone could see it. He quickly spoke politely. Ha ha ha, I heard your father say that your martial arts talent is average, but I didn't expect it to be so humble. You are only in your 20s, and you have already been able to cultivate your 5 senses to such a level that you can observe things that ordinary people cannot observe. What does this mean? Silver Ding asked further. Do you know what the limit of a warrior is? Is it a master? No, far from it. Above a master, there is still a realm that washes away dust, opens the eyes, burns the body, and sublimates the soul, becoming a mortal realm. Those people, those adults, or in other words, they can no longer be simply called humans. They possess powers that are difficult for ordinary people to understand. Li Jingquan said with envy and a hint of awe on his face. Is this related to unobservable objects? Yin Ding's face was full of confusion. I heard that there is a realm above the mortal realm, and the people in that realm are no longer human, so their place of residence is also different from ours. They live in a higher world that we cannot see, observe, touch or dare not touch. And those bad things are also similar to those that exist, wandering in darkness, emptiness, and nothingness. When some strange changes occur in the mortal world, they will come here, but not completely. The weapons of mortals will be greatly discounted against them, weakened many times, and almost have little effect. Some powerful strategic weapons may be able to harm them, but if such monsters come and use large-scale weapons, it won't be long before humans themselves will completely destroy themselves. After a pause, Li Jingquan sighed and continued, however, the qi, blood, and spirit of warriors can harm them, so that's why the Empire has given us such a high status as a master. Is that so? The silver tripod fell lonely and sighed leisurely. It's like this, Li Jingquan's face is full of helplessness. Chapter 4. The Truth Part 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After a while, Yin Ding recovered slightly from the verbal impact just now. Li Jingquan gently lowered his large knife and picked up a scroll of calligraphy and painting from the edge of the shelf. He slowly opened it and placed it in front of the silver cauldron. Don't think about things that are too far away, they are far beyond our reach. Since you can see the qi of blood Sha, it means that you have trained your 5 senses to the extreme and can try to break through to the Grandmaster. Speaking, he opened the scroll in his hand. On the flawless white paper, there are faint patterns scattered all over it. On the far left, there is a line of characters titled Spiritual People's Livelihood Map. Wearing a purple robe, with 9 colored ribbons tied around the waist, and wearing blue silk shoes facing the sky, one's black hair naturally hangs down. With the right hand holding the 7-colored demon subduing sword, and the left hand opening, a continent is suspended, and countless people are walking in the middle. The most strange thing is the eyes painted on the painting, a strand of purple is hidden deep in it. If you look closely, those eyes seem to have come to life, even blinking at the silver cauldron, making people unable to raise their feet and want to approach. When he woke up, thunderous cries came from his ears. Suddenly, his shoulder was slapped hard, and Yin Ding's whole body was stirred up. He realized that he had unconsciously pressed his entire face against the painting, and was so scared that he quickly took a few steps back. This is a visualization diagram, painted by spiritual beings themselves, conveying a hint of imagination. When ordinary people exercise their bodies to the limit, by observing these paintings, they can guide their spirits into the body and break through to become masters. If it is really impossible to break through, they can also combine this painting with some special external means to become a semi-disabled master, that is, a master. Even semi-disabled people are far stronger than ordinary people, and there is evil energy in their bodies, which can barely deal with things in the dark. Li Jingquan explained on the side. Helping ordinary people surpass their physical limits and become masters is not a priceless treasure, and Silver Ding is amazed. That's not true. I cherish my spirituality immensely. This visualization picture was exchanged for years of merit, and even for the cultivation of the master, it has a certain auxiliary effect. It is considered good in the visualization picture, but it can only be visualized about 10 times. I have already observed it 3 times, and I should be able to use it 5 or 6 times. After using it, it will only be an ordinary painting, said Li Jingquan with a regretful expression. Then he waved again, gesturing for the silver ding to follow him. Arriving at a huge safe next to my desk, I took out the key and opened it. Inside were several jade bottles, and with a painful expression, I pulled them out and counted them back and forth, as if counting a few more would yield more. After a long time, we finally finished counting and took out a booklet from our arms, handing it over together. Ding quickly reached out and took it over, opened the jade bottle, and saw several crystal clear green pills inside. He couldn't tell what they were, but could only smell a faint fragrance wafting out. After taking a sip, his already tired body was full of vitality. As for the booklet, there are detailed instructions for observing spiritual beings, which seems to be a small explanation of some details when breaking through the Grandmaster. This is the Xingling pill, made by people. Li Jingquan paused before continuing to say that there will be huge consumption when observing the Lingren diagram. This pill can not only replenish consumption, but also assist ordinary people in condensing evil energy to a certain extent. As for this booklet, it is a popular key point to pay attention to in cultivation among masters. Please take a closer look and read it several times. Thank you very much, Uncle Li. The silver cauldron bows down to express gratitude. Thank you. As long as you observe the spiritual figure in the booklet and take the pill, can you break through? That's not true. Usually, after exercising the 5 senses to the extreme, even if successful, it takes about 10 observations to successfully induce the evil energy into the body. You try it first, and if you fail, it doesn't matter. If you're working, I'll say hello for you. I'll go on a trip to another city later, and I'll talk about the rest when I come back. Li Jingquan waved his hand. After speaking, he turned around and walked towards the outside. Outside, 2 black-clad men with master badges on their chests had already stood. When Li Jingquan walked out of the door, he silently turned around and followed. Stepping into the darkness outside the building. In the end, the specific cause of death for parents in this world was not fully understood. The silver cauldron shook its head. Looking at the jade bottle and book in his hand, this was his first capital for settling down in this world, hoping to break through successfully. Although Li Jingquan spoke casually, he could still hear the strong reluctance in his words. I'm afraid even if he took out this resource, it would be a huge loss, not to mention the pain. But I have only practiced putting on airs for a few years. As for being able to see evil energy, it may be related to strange things in my body. Although it is a bit scary, I hope it can help me. Otherwise, it would be too difficult to travel to this world. The matter should not be delayed, especially after knowing the truth of this world. Ding urgently hopes to obtain the true strength that belongs to him. Otherwise, although the probability of encountering bad things is very low from the current situation, if he is unlucky, he will have no fighting power and will not know how to die. Pack up several jade bottles and books, stuff them into your arms, and the silver ding eagerly walks out of the gate of the Grandmaster League, rushing back to the home of this world. Chapter 5. Deep Space Up. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In a residential area far from the city center, there are 03 villas. This is the accommodation house left by the parents of this world for Ding. The house comes with a garden and swimming pool, which is also Ding's only property. The silver tripod in this world, due to having a good father and mother, and being spoiled by their parents, has a lower score than their father in the college entrance examination. They can't even reach the exhaust of Sun Shan, have no ability, no diploma, and don't want to work. They stay at home all day, just playing games, and end up waiting for the silver tripod in another world. Whether willing or unwilling, they inherit everything. But it was discovered that besides the house, the parents of Ding knew their son's character and would keep a fixed amount of money when going on missions. They had already been squandered by the original Ding and wanted to collect the inheritance left in the bank. However, they found that the parents of this world were already prepared. Ding indeed had the right to inherit, but could only receive one living allowance each year, save some expenses, and still live a good life. As a result, when the money was received, it naturally disappeared at the speed of light. As a result, as soon as I wore more and more clothes, I was in an awkward period when the spendthrift ran out of money and relied on Mantu to make a living. It's forcing even the silver ding to want to rent, but fortunately, it's almost a year away and it's about to end. Take out the key and open the door, quickly come to your room, close the curtains, and turn on the room lights. On the left side of the chair, I placed the jade bottle on the desk. On the way home, out of curiosity, Ding had already searched online for information about the Xingling pill. The results were all useless health product advertisements, which had nothing to do with the pill in his own hand. This also indirectly illustrates the preciousness of the pill in hand. It seems that I owe a lot of favor to Li Jingxuan this time. Although this is a legacy from my parents, I cannot calculate it in this way as a person. Open the booklet and flip through it. The first few pages record some history and mythological stories related to martial arts. This planet has a civilization of over 9,000 years, from the previous 8,000 years to the completion of industrialization and the formation of several capitalist empires. In order to benefit each other, various countries attacked and fought against each other, causing endless wars and hardships for the people. Until over 1,000 years ago, when we entered the era of space exploration, no country was able to achieve absolute military hegemony and focused on exploring the universe. Moreover, the physical rules of this universe were very strange, with dozens or hundreds of stars crowded together in the longest and narrowest areas no more than 0.1 light-years, and the narrowest areas even less than 1% light-years. Most importantly, each star system has as many as hundreds of planets suitable for human habitation. The distance between each other can be said to be within a short distance. Human beings have been able to increase the flight speed of manned rockets to 200 kilometers per second, which is nearly 1,000th of the speed of light. Although this is the maximum speed during flight and requires a long time for acceleration and deceleration, it still only takes 1 or 2 years or even a few months for humans to fly to nearby galaxies, and it only takes a few days or weeks to fly to nearby planets. Space exploration has become a profitable behavior. Countries are competing to launch different aircraft, but to everyone's surprise, the good times may not last long, and the good may not come, but the bad may come. Originally, there were some special energy fluctuations in the deep space of this world's universe, which greatly limited communication, and the observation effect of space telescopes was also very unsatisfactory. However, nearby satellites and planets were too close, and the nearest satellite was only over 100,000 kilometers long. Manned rockets could fly even harder in just one day, and if they were faster, they could even run back and forth in a day. Therefore, various countries on the planet, I didn't take this small issue seriously at all, and even everyone believed that the interstellar age was coming, and housing prices on various moons and even other planets were being hyped up. As a result, hell in the deep sky of the universe descended with the returning pilots. On May 5, 1903, in the imperial calendar, the Galactic Empire successfully completed the feasibility study mission for the construction of the largest satellite, the Red Moon base, and collected a large amount of Red Moon soil. In the celebration of the entire empire, the 11 pilots who participated in the mission became heroes. People, society, and the empire all celebrated the completion of the Galactic Empire's exploration of the Red Moon, which was about to completely overwhelm the remaining opponents of the empire. Dominating the world is just around the corner. On May 6, 1903, at 8:30 a.m. in the imperial calendar, the astronaut psychological inquiry room was located at the third space center of the Gallo Empire. A young man with a tired and slightly nervous expression, probably in his 20s or 60s, standing around 1.7 meters tall, wearing blue minimalist work clothes and a badge on his chest, is a top-level astronaut named Luo Yang. Receiving routine psychological counseling. A psychological counselor consists of a middle-aged doctor wearing a white coat and a kind face, as well as a young and beautiful young woman, who is an employee of the Space Center. Astronaut Luo Yang, you said that while you were sleeping in the spacecraft, someone kept knocking on the wall of the spacecraft, right? Yes, for 2 consecutive days, there was a knocking sound coming from the wall next to my sleep, which caused me to not sleep well. When I checked outside the cabin, everything was normal. I don't know what's going on. Astronaut Luo Yang, don't worry too much. Based on your portable equipment, we have found that your blood pressure was a bit low and your brain-secreted hormones were a bit disrupted throughout the entire flight. It should be just a stress response that caused you to experience auditory hallucinations. You don't need to worry too much. We have arranged for the best doctors to conduct comprehensive and meticulous examinations and the best treatment for you. Thank you, I am currently in good condition. It should be just my hallucination. I almost made some mistakes during work, and I hope to improve soon. Astronaut Luo Yang, with your physical fitness and psychological resilience, and the help of the most professional doctors, you will soon recover. I think I should, and I hope I will get better soon. Thank you very much. The young man stood up to express his gratitude. You are welcome, it is our responsibility to restore the valuable astronauts to their condition. We hope you can return to your peak soon. The Empire is looking forward to your better performance. A beautiful woman with a smile on her face. Luo Yang was a little excited, pounding his chest with one hand and shouting, for the sake of the Empire. For the Empire. The staff and doctors quickly stood up to salute. Chapter 6. Under Deep Space. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The third space center of the Galactic Empire sent away Luo Yang. The middle-aged doctor started talking to the young woman. In Luo Yang's past records, he was outstanding in both physical and psychological endurance, even among top-level astronauts. He never expected such a thing to happen. The female staff was puzzled. The doctor spread out his hand, helpless. As an astronaut, this is how it is. No matter how well you train, when you are in space, floating in a lonely and narrow iron can, you still have to constantly worry about the problem of the iron can and the heavy workload. No matter how good your psychological resilience is, it is completely normal for you to have problems. In medicine, it is generally believed that this is because our ancestors have been grounded for countless years, running in wide areas, suddenly losing gravity, coupled with physiological changes caused by the narrow space of spacecraft, resulting in a series of psychological problems. Okay, how long will it take for him to recover? Said the organizers helplessly. She bears the responsibility of the astronaut's life and all the miscellaneous issues. If the astronaut's recovery is too slow, or even impossible, then she will have to scold him and may even lose this good job. I can't say that, but in my experience, Luo Yang is young and physically strong. In just 1 month, he can recover his workability. The doctor gave a response. Blessed by the god of the red moon, your radiance represents vitality. The staff clasped their hands and prayed. The doctor beside him looked at the scene with a speechless expression. As a doctor, he disliked all kinds of religious and supernatural people the most, but it was not easy to interrupt directly and quickly change the topic. 2 astronauts have also applied for psychological counseling. Let's quickly call them over. The staff reluctantly withdrew their prayer gesture, pressed the call button, and invited another astronaut to come in. Ding ding, as the sensing door opened, a middle-aged man with a calm but slightly uneasy and even fearful expression walked in. The doctor and staff guided the middle-aged man to sit down and began to inquire. Hello, Bolite class astronaut. If you have any questions, feel free to ask and we will do our best to solve them for you. The doctor wore a smile on his face. Thank you. While on board the spacecraft, I accidentally heard someone talking to me while inspecting equipment, which seemed like an illusion. I have received the most professional training and have been trying my best to look at it, but for some reason, I just can't forget it. The psychologist and the staff looked at each other and asked, "Oh, what is it?" "I can't forget, I can't forget. It seems like someone has been telling me in my ear that I can't forget, but what can't be forgotten?" The astronauts are feeling a bit overwhelmed. The psychologist saw the situation and his face became serious. He had a serious auditory hallucination, which had already affected his mental state. "Bully astronaut, don't get excited. It's very safe here, and we will always be by your side." Noticing his loss of composure, the middle-aged astronaut felt a bit embarrassed and tidied up his collar before continuing to recount. That was a woman's voice, which seemed very young. I felt like she was standing next to me, pressing against my ear, constantly saying things that I couldn't forget. At first, I thought it was an illusion, and I comforted myself in my heart. But she kept saying, I was also saying it when I was sleeping, and I couldn't bear it. I asked, what should I not forget? But a frightened expression appeared on Bo Lee's face, and she answered me. The doctor and the staff looked at each other, hesitated for a moment, and then asked, what did they answer you? You are an astronaut with strong psychological qualities, said Bo Lee, you will understand it yourself. I don't know why I seem to understand something, but it seems like I don't understand anything. Specifically, the staff raised their eyebrows. Rice, it's rice, my staple food that I often eat. There are some things about rice that I have forgotten, which I should have remembered. Bo Lee's tone is helpless, his hands are anxiously grabbing his hair, and his expression is a bit broken. Next is a normal comforting process, after seeing off the astronaut Bori. The doctor sighed and said that the astronaut needed more detailed and comprehensive examinations, including cranial imaging, electroencephalography, and so on. Doctor, is there any illness with the Bo Lee astronaut? It's still uncertain at the moment. After the examination, some possible organic lesions need to be ruled out first. If not, I have a few classmates who are experts in neurology and psychiatry. Let's take a look together and have a further evaluation by astronauts from Bo Lee. The doctor explained, but you need to be mentally prepared. Astronaut Bo Lee may not be able to participate in the subsequent ascent plan, and his body and mind may not be able to withstand more stimulation. The staff felt a bit helpless, so they had to put this matter aside first, ring the bell, and call for the last astronaut to come in. The last person to enter was a young woman named Li Jinjin, a famous genius in physics and chemistry in the Galactic Empire. This moon landing was mainly to conduct various data measurements and provide theoretical support for the construction of the future Red Moon base. At this moment, the female astronaut walked in with a calm and even somewhat indifferent expression, sitting on a chair like a robot, her delicate face covered in ice. Hello, Jinjin astronaut. Do you have any worries? According to the records, you are a positive and optimistic person who loves life, but now you seem a bit unhappy. The staff flipped through the documents in their hands while speaking. Hello, I don't have any worries, I just feel a bit uncomfortable in my heart, so I came to consult. The female astronaut politely answered. What makes you feel uncomfortable? The doctor quickly asked, and after the incident with the two astronauts just now, he also felt a hint of unease in his heart. Yu reading www.uukangshu.net couldn't help but bring a hint of seriousness to his tone. During my voyage, I often overlooked the starry sky, one cluster to the east and one cluster to the west, without the obstruction of the atmosphere, it is very beautiful. But one day, while watching the stars fall, I suddenly felt like my heart was being hit by something. Then I began to have nightmares. In the dream, someone was carrying a coffin, many people, the coffin was so big, and there were many people under it. Those people were carrying the coffin, struggling, but they just didn't put it down. Blood flowed down their shoulders, 1 drop, 2 drops, 3 or 4 drops. Their feet were worn through, and their bones were exposed. Not only were their bones exposed, but the sky was white, and the ground was also white. The blood dripped down, and the white ground turned red. They kept coming towards me at a slow pace. I kept running away, but couldn't shake them off. My feet were caught. Oh my God, the earth is made of bones, and the sky is also made of bones. I was caught by them. Li Jinjin's cold face showed fear, and her beautiful face twisted into a ball. Her hands waved wildly, as if fighting against the surrounding air. Not good, she lost control of her mind. The staff rushed over and held down her hands. The doctor hurriedly took out a sedative and stabbed the female astronaut's neck. The medicine took effect quickly, and Li Jinjin's body quickly softened. Support personnel rushed in and together tied her to a specially made stretcher before carrying her out. Prepare now, I need to immediately issue a report to the director of the Space Center. The doctor instructed the staff on the side who were still in shock. After a while, Yu said, one may be accidental, but 3 of them are not right. Moreover, they are all among the elite, and even those who have been to the battlefield have all experienced such incidents. We are in big trouble. Chapter 7. Nightmare Part 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Een Ding eagerly flipped through the booklet, wanting to know the follow-up of the matter. A week later, Luo Yang was found dead in his own bedroom at the Space Center. It was during the training the next day that he had not arrived yet. When his teammates went to check, they found out that his entire body was torn to pieces, which almost scared his teammates who went to call him crazy. After the on-site restoration, the body tissue was reduced by more than half. The 24-hour surveillance in the Luoyang accommodation area was adjusted, but it was found that Luo Yang had not come out since returning to the dormitory at 9 o'clock last night, and no one had visited him. Then, he was found dead in the room at 8 o'clock in the morning. However, the Aerospace Center was heavily guarded, and Luo Yang himself was a soldier. Whoever had the ability to bypass the surveillance did not leave any clues to kill him, and the body was also divided. Where was the remaining body? After multiple searches, nothing was found, so the case was hastily closed. In order to increase patrols at the Space Center just in case, a team of special forces were directly dispatched to undertake night security checks. The entire Space Center can be said to be invincible for a while. However, the tragedy happened again 2 days later, when the middle-aged astronaut Bo Li was eating fried rice in the canteen. He suddenly stood up in panic. I remember it now, I remember it now. Bo Li suddenly stood up from his seat, his hands and feet dancing wildly, his face twisted, as if he had seen a demon. I had a slight dense phobia. Pang, the plate fell to the ground with his waving arm, and golden grains of rice scattered all over the ground. Ah ah. Cluck, a strange sound came from Bo Li's throat, and then he collapsed to the ground amidst the screams of those around him. When people rushed over with all their hands and feet, they could only see his round eyes, which scared him to death. 2 strange incidents occurred consecutively in a short period of time, and the senior management of the Space Center finally realized that something was wrong. They quickly monitored another female astronaut, Li Jinjin, and deployed several professional teams to provide 24-hour personal protection for her. Countless high-tech monitors were used, thermal imaging, and radio wave detectors were also deployed. The entire Space Center has been sealed off, and the guards are fully armed with live ammunition, and have been given combat orders. All possible preparations have been made, waiting for the arrival of guests from outside the sky. The tragedy happened again soon. Li Jinjin was initially very nervous, and then she became very excited, constantly promoting the greatness of the God of Tranquility to several guards who accompanied her. Only by believing in the God of Tranquility can she fearlessly obtain eternal peace without any fear. The people around her shouted loudly to stop it, but it was of no use. In the end, they had to inject a sedative and arrange for someone to watch her. At night, in the monitoring room of the Space Center, the director of the Space Center and a group of subordinates nervously stared at the surveillance screen, which showed Li Jinjin lying in bed. Their eyes were tightly closed, and there was a faint smile on the corners of their mouths, which should have been a beautiful picture. However, her body suddenly collapsed in an instant, losing the support of her bones, and her organs and respiratory tract were under pressure. Li Junjun woke up in pain, struggling frantically. Her muscles were tightly bound, but she struggled to exert force correctly without the support of her bones. Her whole body wriggled like a meatworm, dying in the fear of the doctors around her. The incident at the Third Space Center quickly caught the royal family of the Gallo Empire's attention. After watching a video of the astronaut's death, the entire Space Center and its surroundings were immediately sealed off for 100 miles. All those who had visited the Space Center during this period were forcibly controlled by the military and thrown into the center. But death did not stop. Every day, people in the lockdown area were dismembered, and most of the bodies were lost, as if they had been devoured by some creature. A month later, less than 1,000 people died inside the Space Center, and during this period, the Empire adopted countless techniques and methods, but did not even discover the shadow of the killer. After the death of the soldiers responsible for blockade, the Empire launched a high-yield nuclear weapon, turning the entire Space Center and its surroundings into ashes. Such a big commotion cannot be concealed from the other empires, and under domestic and international pressure, the Empire had to disclose the reason. The end of the day has arrived, and it will not stop. 3 days after the nuclear explosion, the same situation occurred in a small city 3,000 miles away from the Space Center. The monster was not eliminated by the nuclear explosion, and it began a new hunt. This time, all empires participated in the investigation and provided various new weapons, but they were still useless. Even astronauts who have participated in space missions are constantly experiencing problems, and death spreads like blood, leaving humanity helpless. Upon reading this, Ian Ding couldn't help but feel a little creepy. What exactly is it? Humans couldn't even discover it. However, since humans can live for 1,000 years, UUKangshu.net naturally has a way to control those things. Otherwise, there would have been no one on this planet for a long time. Quickly flip through it. This situation has continued for 3 years, and the population on this planet has reached 19 billion after industrialization, about to exceed 20 billion. But after the nightmare came, even if people stopped space exploration and carried out various blockades on areas with anomalies, and even nuclear bombs washed the ground, sometimes it was useful, sometimes it was not, and various abnormal events increased exponentially. 1 year later, the massive death toll left the government unable to conceal it. People began to panic and become wary, but to no avail. All activities related to industrial and agricultural production, as well as human reproduction, were disrupted. Soon, 2 more years passed, and the official population on the entire planet was no longer even 1 million. Of course, the so-called official institutions were already institutions that were repeatedly pieced together after destruction. Perhaps there were still a small number of humans hiding in unknown wilderness, but humans were already less than 1 in 10,000 and on the brink of extinction. Since humans learned to use tools, they have been the absolute ruler of this week, especially with the invention of thermal weapons. Humans even consider themselves the absolute ruler of this planet, an omnipotent god. Even the strongest creatures and most developed muscles cannot stop a small bullet, but everything has changed. When faced with the past proud existence that thermal weapons were difficult to deal with, or when they did not work, countless pride collapsed like building blocks. The world has changed, the crown of the hegemon has been lost. In the new war, humanity is an absolute weakness, a lamb waiting to be slaughtered, or in other words, the gap is even greater, because humans cannot even discover who their opponents are or what they are. Even the barking before death is full of confusion and incomprehension, as well as unimaginable terror. The era of the Great Collapse has arrived. Chapter 8. Nightmare Part 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the year 2014-23 of the Daily Era, a barren galaxy was crowded with hundreds of stars, emitting countless light and heat, nurturing thousands of planets and satellites around it. Thousands of planets and even larger satellites have given birth to life and civilization, and 3 of them have already begun exploring space, hoping to find new cradles of life. However, the harsh cosmic environment and countless energy storms hinder communication and exchange in the void, and the rich breath of life attracts some inexplicable things to wander in the void, searching for ways to enter the enriched zone of life. Now one of the planets has been succeeded by them. The spaceship that went out has left the protection of the planet's magnetic field, and the food smell inside has pointed the way for the monsters, attracting them like a searchlight. The magnetic field that has been protecting the life inside the planet is not perfect, and the monsters have descended from higher latitudes, and the feast begins from here. A fiery red comet is flying in the galaxy, clearly in the void of space. The crimson fireworks have stirred up ripples, like water waves trembling. The comet's speed is only a few tens of times the speed of sound, which is pitifully slow in space. However, it will suddenly disappear and reappear, already tens of thousands of kilometers away. Brushing, the fiery red flames stopped and rippled, enveloping the enchanting flames like living creatures. In the next moment, they quickly withdrew. The human figure exposed in the flames, who looked middle-aged, wearing a black Taoist robe and a purple Taoist crown, stood in the void, incredibly small but not angry and self-imposing. "Oh, there are mortals living here, but it seems like they will all die." Treading in the air, the Taoist gazed at the planet in front of him, clearly separated by millions of kilometers. He reached out and held it in his hand, as if taking the planet into his palm. "In the near future, I will make further progress. Today, I am in a good mood. Remember my name, which was bestowed upon me by immortals. The spiritual name is Diyuan. From then on, this shattered star area will be named Diyuan." As the words closed, the figure was once again enveloped by deep blue flames, transforming into a blue phantom and rushing towards the planet in front of them, thundering fiercely. As recorded in the Age of Disappearance, when humanity was about to become extinct, a spiritual person named Diyuan descended and destroyed all the monsters on the entire planet with his own power, leaving behind his master and the practice of secular 2 realms. The entire star cluster was named after Diyuan, with hundreds of star systems and thousands of life planets being granted the qualification of dedicating to Diyuan. There were also hundreds of similar star clusters around him, all of which were saved by the spiritual person during his travels and named after Diyuan, a pet kept for the Diyuan spirit people and dedicated to their efforts. "Lingren, what is that thing?" The silver cauldron murmured to itself. Surprisingly able to cross the void with a physical body, and it seems that there is a stronger presence on it. In the world one is in, becoming an emperor does not require one to be much stronger than others. Often, it is just a little stronger, with good luck, and more importantly, one's background. Therefore, the higher one's position, the more they need to resort to any means. 6 relatives do not recognize it, because virtue does not match. No matter how strong one is, they will not be twice as strong as another in all aspects. Usually, they are only slightly stronger, and use this as a leverage to obtain huge benefits. The so-called high and mighty are often far inferior to the lower class in many aspects, but they enjoy 10,000 or even 100,000 times the wealth of ordinary people, which is why there is the so-called hatred of wealth and luxury. The big shots are afraid that ordinary people will find out that they are only ordinary people or just slightly stronger than ordinary people. When ordinary people discover this truth and the so-called big shots, as long as they are given a brick behind them, they will also die, and their doomsday has arrived. Therefore, they need to constantly shape a perfect image for themselves, an invincible image for ordinary people. That is why they need to constantly proclaim the so-called emperor, take orders from heaven and earth, and use the power of heaven and earth to give legitimate qualifications to their wrongdoings. Just an ordinary person's emperor, relying on the leverage of interests, can achieve the emperor's anger and lay 1,000,000 corpses. So in this world where great power belongs to oneself, what would happen? If one person is twice as strong as another in all aspects, then that person is not a human. It's not just about doubling strength or speed, strength and speed are just a small fraction of human indicators. Digestion, nerve conduction, immunity, respiration will all be strengthened, even surpassing ordinary people. He can breathe in several hundred degrees of high temperature, swim in -200 degrees, pull out weeping willows upside down, race against 4 legs, and the bacteria that kill others are just miscellaneous bacteria for him. A single cough counts as much, and he can dive into a kilometer deep without breathing for hours. Even if a nuclear war breaks out and the planet enters a nuclear winter, he can survive like a cockroach. Strong digestive tolerance can even allow it to absorb nutrients from the soil, skip meals for several months, tolerate ubiquitous radiation, and not cause physical breakdown. So in that case, are the people around him still human in his eyes, or are they just fragile porcelain? The extraordinary system of this world is not so much about seeking truth through practice, but more like evolution seeking survival, where ordinary people constantly evolve and even sublimate into spiritual beings. After evolution, people are no longer human. The realm of the Grandmaster is still fine, as recorded in books. They still fear firearms, and if they are set on fire, there is only one way to die. However, if the Grandmaster breaks through further, he will open his eyes and wash away the dust, entering the mortal realm. In other words, the mortal realm is considered mortal. So, what about the Grandmaster and even ordinary people below, not considered human? This idea came to Yin Ding's mind. Opening the heavenly eye and shedding the mortal world, this realm is said to no longer be afraid of firearms. The weapons of mortals are basically useless to it. In ancient times, it was easy to slaughter all the humans on a planet, greatly reducing their dependence on material food and air. They can even survive in space, which is unimaginable. They can no longer be considered humans. Putting down the book, the silver cauldron slowly walked to the window. The light of more than 10 colorful moons scattered on the windowsill, and the small lake next to it was faintly dyed. Under the ripples of the water, it was like a spinning kaleidoscope. Looking at it for a long time can't help but make people feel dizzy and dizzy. In this chaotic world, Yin Ding thought to himself, whether it was the monsters hidden in the dark, the non-human warriors, or even the spiritual beings above. Even from this kind of layout, there were still beings that the spiritual beings feared. When facing those beings, the spiritual beings seemed to be on the defensive. All of these are nightmares for ordinary people. Whether it's monsters or spiritual beings, they are not something that they can fight against now. Even if they understand, they cannot understand, otherwise they will not know how to die. However, I am not willing to become an ordinary person like an ant, not even a human. I must immediately break through my master. Yin Ding made up his mind. Chapter 9. Grandmaster Up. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sitting cross-legged in the bedroom, I brought a large box of high-energy food and a juicer in case I didn't have time to chew when I broke through. I poured it directly into the machine, squeezed it all into juice, and first poured a big glass to drink until I was full. Opened the book and turned to the last page, which records the method of breaking through the master. Ordinary people lack spirituality, and only by constantly wandering between life and death can they stimulate spirituality, attract evil energy to possess the body, and surpass the limits of the human body. Before a spiritual person is born, there is no correct method, and more importantly, there is not enough spiritual energy. If the 5 senses are transparent, they can be called masters. In complex environments, facing the elderly, weak, sick, and disabled, one can be called 100. However, once faced with armored elite soldiers, as long as a small team, 5 or 6 people, cooperate properly, hold shields, and surround themselves, it is the end of being dismembered by a chaotic knife. But now, with the Life Spirit Pill, observing the Spirit Person diagram, not only can stimulate spirituality, but it can also be transformed into 100. Growth, reflected in the physical body, means breaking through boundaries, possessing evil energy, having a hard skin like iron, and an overall increase in strength and speed. It is no longer afraid of being surrounded by the number of mortals or cold weapons. Even with bare hands, it can be fatal for ordinary people. Sha Qi, on the other hand, is induced by human spirituality to be nurtured by the human body. When attached to the body, it can quickly increase strength and speed. After all, Sha Qi is only the power triggered by the human body. Usually, a master has extremely limited Sha Qi. Once released, they can only launch a few attacks, which will be exhausted. Moreover, masters are more willing to attach Sha Qi to the body, increase defense, and consume less. Of course, even without relying on evil energy, Grandmaster is invincible to ordinary people. His strong muscles can even withstand small-caliber firearms at close range without damaging his internal organs. The spirit figure hides spirituality, and ordinary people can activate spirituality by exercising their 5 senses to be transparent. Combined with the vitality pill to enhance spirituality, they can step into the master realm. However, excessive spirituality can also lead to physical collapse. Many people directly experience physical exhaustion and die when they break through. With the protection of a master, they can guide spiritual leakage and save their lives. However, the body cannot be fully strengthened, the foundation is damaged, and it is impossible to conceive evil energy. These people are called masters, and they cannot further break through or continue to understand spirituality. They can never become stronger again. Grandmaster's breakthrough is so dangerous, but there are still many people who follow suit one after another. Naturally, there are its benefits. Grandmaster can live without illness or disaster until the age of 80, and then continue to struggle for a year. Grandmaster is relatively inferior, but compared to ordinary women at the age of 30 and men at the age of 40, he begins to decline significantly, which is much stronger. The average life expectancy of humans in this world is only around 60 years old. Take out the spiritual figure and stick it on the wall in front of you, while the silver cauldron silently watches. To visualize a spiritual figure, one must first achieve 5 senses of transparency. This condition can deceive more than 99% of people, allowing them to see evil energy. However, for some unknown reason, one has already reached this level, and then one's own life is different, with different spirituality. Most people have too low spirituality to attract spirituality. Of course, there are also some solutions recorded in the book, such as using a massive amount of life spiritual pills, setting up spiritual arrays, or inviting the existence of ordinary realms to guide oneself, which can increase the probability of attracting spirituality. However, one does not need to do so because looking forward with one's eyes can lose focus. At this moment, Ding's consciousness was already immersed in a darkness, which covered everything up and devoured everything. There was only a glimmer of light in the center, and a corpse was quietly floating in the void. This was something that Ding had discovered since crossing over, existing in his own consciousness. The corpse was clearly unobstructed, but his face could not be seen from any direction. What exactly is this? The silver cauldron circled around the corpse, looking puzzled. Jiayu corpse, 3 words suddenly appeared in the mind of Silver Ding. After conducting many experiments, it was found that the main function of this explanatory corpse is to answer one's own doubts and help solve some problems. Of course, sometimes when asked how to make chocolate fried eggplant, tomato braised apple delicious, he does not answer, or when asked earlier about what the universe is and what the spirit person is, he does not answer, not knowing whether it is this explanatory corpse who does not know or disdains to answer. At first, I was a bit panicked about something strange in my subconscious, but over time, that's all. After all, it doesn't seem like he's going to harm me at the moment, as life goes on as usual. Hello, do you have any way to help me break through the master? Asked Ding politely. Ling Yuan, the word echoed through this space, and then a transparent light emerged from the heart of the corpse. Looking at the light, the silver cauldron reached out and carefully touched it, and the light instantly poured into its palm. Continuing on, the silver cauldron returned directly to the real world. After the light poured in, Yu reading www.yuukangshu.net ignited the entire body like a flame, and everything in the blood vessels and nerves was reorganized. The two eyes emitted a heart-wrenching light. The spiritual figures on the wall came to life, strolling down towards the silver cauldron, and then turned into a purple glow pouring into the forehead of the silver cauldron. The spiritual figure then faded into darkness, rapidly decaying, as if experiencing thousands of years of time in an instant, and then turned into a pile of ashes, dissipating into the air. Leave only one message. For ordinary people to cultivate themselves, break through limits, and then cultivate virtue. Remember to do so. Xiaoguang plunged into the skull and disappeared in an instant, causing the flames around the body to gradually cease. The eyebrows and hearts of the silver tripod suddenly parted, revealing a golden eye. As the golden pupils curiously looked around, the skeletal muscles of the whole body began to click and click. Originally, the silver tripod was about 1.8 meters tall, but it was a bit thin and weak. Now, it is deforming towards the most suitable body shape for combat, shrinking by a few centimeters. The muscles of the whole body continue to break, tear, and rearrange, the bones are compressed and stretched, and the heart blood is redistributed. There is a diaphragm between the lung lobes, and a large number of large blood vessels emit many small blood vessels. The collateral circulation is established, and the nerves are highly active, the gaps in the skull are filled with muscles, the spine is covered by fascia, and the weaknesses of the human body are decreasing and weakening. Close your eyes, the golden pupils sweep across for 6 weeks, yes, 6 weeks. The front, back, left, right, up and down objects are within the sight of the silver cauldron, and no wind or grass can escape its gaze. A faint thread appeared in the originally empty air, but when I reached over, I couldn't feel anything. Brushing, a red ominous aura was swung out by the silver cauldron, dividing the table next to it in half. Looking at my palm, I slightly focused my mind and saw the pulsation of blood vessels, the contraction and relaxation of muscles, and the trembling of bones. This is not the ability of a master. Chapter 10. Grandmaster II. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Grandmaster, according to the records in the book and the information I have researched in my daily life, my physical body is only about twice as strong as the limit of an ordinary person. The strongest among grandmasters are only about half as strong on this basis. The combat speed of an ordinary grandmaster is usually only about 25 meters per second, and the stronger ones are only over 30 meters. Of course, this is just the speed of movement in battle. The master is a killing machine, not a running champion. In some worlds, the top athletes, in order to increase their speed to 10 meters per second, have suffered severe physical wear and deformation, deformities, and joint diseases at a young age. When running at high speeds, a fall can even kill themselves. And what the master pursues is comprehensive improvement to deal with unimaginable opponents. Of course, it is not that the master cannot run fast. If he escapes, with the master's comprehensive strengthening of the body, he can even forcibly control his blood circulation, concentrate nutrition supply on cardiovascular function and legs for a short period of time, and increase the speed to 50 meters per second in a short period of time. If combined with the burst of evil energy, it can be even faster. Even those with 4 or even more legs cannot compare to the previous one. In the data, it is indeed mentioned that the masters can perceive things that ordinary people cannot see, such as an open eye and the ability to observe non-existent objects, but it is also not mentioned who has a third eye. Looking at the shining golden vertical pupils in the mirror, Yin Ding's face was filled with helplessness as he practiced and became the Erlang god. What was going on? Also, according to the data, the master's 5 senses are far beyond that of ordinary people, and he doesn't say he can cruise 360 degrees without blind spots. Looking at himself makes him feel like he's playing a game, looking at himself in the game. However, at the end of the book, Li Jingxuan wrote some of his own observations. He opened his eyes and saw the world from afar, overlooking the world, dispelling clouds and mist, fearing the heavens and the earth, and everything was dust-free. This should refer to the ordinary realm with a 360-degree visual range. Not only that, but also the mundane realm, where all things are dust-free, means that they should be able to see things that ordinary people cannot see, that is, the real world. However, it is the mundane realm. From the name, it can be seen that in the cultivation system of this world, even if it is already outrageous, it is still just ordinary people. Since they are ordinary people, of course, they still maintain their human form. There are also some scenes of big figures and warriors appearing on the internet, either generals or marshals, but they do not directly manage the army. There are also the personal guards and commanders around the emperor of the empire, who should be the existence of the ordinary realm. However, they are still like ordinary people, and they do not see anyone with an extra eye. At most, there seems to be a general with 6 fingers in each hand, but that should be just a normal variation. With a population of over 20 billion, there are also many ordinary people like this. Or do they hide their inhumane qualities? No matter how good it is, it cannot be hidden for such a long time. Only 1,000 days of being a thief, there is no truth to 1,000 days of preventing thieves. Moreover, Li Jingxuan should not have mentioned it in the information he gave himself. After careful consideration, Yin Ding shook his head. So it's just that I'm a bit special, whether it's time-traveling welfare, just the light group spirit element, or both. After thinking about it for a while without any results, I can only put it aside for now and gradually verify it in the future. Feeling the evil energy inside my body, my experimental palm only consumed a fraction of it. However, as recorded in the book, my master's evil energy can usually only be exhausted by emitting a dozen or so attacks, and I feel that I can still emit at least 50 or 60 attacks like before, far exceeding that of Master Xuchang. I know why there is an increase in evil energy. At the beginning, there was only a pitiful small lump of evil energy surging out of my body. However, after transforming my body, the remaining trace of Lingyuan merged into the evil energy, causing my evil energy to rapidly expand, at least 4 times the initial amount. Is this standing at the top of the same level from the beginning? Although combat effectiveness is not entirely determined by evil energy, personal physical fitness and other unknown factors are also important, it can at least make up 30% of a person's combat effectiveness. On the contrary, martial arts skills and so on are insignificant. Those who can reach the level of a master are not good at combat. Moreover, it is not martial arts that make a person famous as a master, but it is after becoming a master that their martial arts become famous. All kinds of martial arts are similar, but only cultivate people's killing awareness. After continuous improvement, the gap between them is small enough to be ignored. In ancient times, one could easily defeat 1,000 soldiers with one enemy, wearing a cloth shirt and holding a broken sword, and dare to take the head rank of a general among 3,000 armored soldiers. However, in modern times, no one dares to boast about an enemy of 100. As for modern times, a so-called master who has been practicing martial arts for decades, who is 1.7 meters tall and weighs 120 pounds, has been beaten by an amateur coach who is 1.75 meters tall and weighs 130 pounds, or an ordinary person who occasionally exercises, and cannot get up with just a few punches. The so-called advanced martial arts skills, after decades of hard practice, are not as good as the weight advantage of 10 pounds. Although somewhat extreme, it is generally not wrong. The so-called martial arts of fighting and killing only teach people how to kill, and more often it cultivates the spirit of daring to kill, which is far from being as divine as various boasters claim. Practicing double fists again, in most cases, when facing opponents with comparable physical fitness, even if the opponent has not practiced martial arts, it is difficult to defeat the 4 hands. After all, how to quickly kill the same kind is something engraved in human genes, which has been the case since ancient times. No matter how hard the iron legs are, a single stick can break them. No matter how hard one practices, even a bare-handed fist cannot defeat a tiger. It's better to have a knife in hand. This is determined by the human body structure. Without extraordinary circumstances, no matter how high the martial arts level is, it's just a mutual praise between the flower sedan chair and the person lifting the person. The iron head skill is not as hard as the brick, and if it is hard, one can only burst their brains. Besides, I don't know much about martial arts. With the absorption of spiritual elements, some common attack techniques and moves also appear in my mind. Moreover, when facing non-human monsters, human combat techniques may have an extremely limited effect. For example, monsters don't have heads or even joints, and various weak point attack methods have no use for joint skills. It's better to hard stack attributes and become a 100-sided warrior. If it's really not possible, run faster. Of course, before doing so, it is important to first understand these monsters and conduct necessary targeted training. Although even a slight difference can save your life, this is just an adult fairy tale, almost the slightest difference. We are not European emperors, and in most cases, a misjudgment is an irreversible gap. But there is a specialization in the craft industry, knowing more and knowing more. Even if it is not useful against the enemy, it can at least provide some psychological comfort to oneself. For example, I am very strong in this illusion.